Hey, YouTube. Welcome back to New Rock City. For those of you that are new, I'm Stephen Moss. I'm your host. And each week we bring you a new band and we interview them and try to keep the local music scene alive during COVID. This week we have a really cool band from Vancouver, Washington. They are called Second Player Score. So, guys, welcome. Thank you so much for being on the show.
Thanks for having us.
Yep. How's it
Hey,
going?
hey, how you doing?
All right. So, I wanted to just jump right in because I got a list of questions for you guys. Um, I'm going to start off by saying or by asking in your documentary on YouTube, you had mentioned that you guys are more than just a band, that Second Player Score is actually more of a brand. And you describe yourselves into two categories as like a nerd rock, and you say it's an entire lifestyle. What do those labels mean to you guys?
Ooh, well, I mean, I think because what we try to do is we try to create stuff that we enjoy ourselves. So, like, personally, the three of us were fans of, pop punk, rock music, pop culture stuff, and beer, of course. So the thing is, we try to create the things that we enjoy ourselves. So, like, the music we make, and then, like, I'm an author. I write novels, and together we produce a comic book series and a bunch of other things. And Kyle is our resident brewmaster. He comes up with the beer recipes, and he makes like really good home brew that we always, when we were able to get together for practice, we would drink it at practice. But yeah, I mean, I think we feel like we want it encompasses that whole realm of different things that we're personally fans of. So we want to try to, in a way, kind of like give back to people, and make things that we enjoy, and hopefully that people will enjoy as well. So that's kind of how we approach it.
Yeah, and then the music is always it's kind of the inspiration for all the other things, and it's all kind of just tied together.
Very nice.
Yeah. Like the music started everything, and then from there we were like, hey, we like comic books. Let's make one. Hey, we like beer. Kyle started making it, and I was like, dude, like, well, where's this gonna stop? Let's just keep this train going.
Yeah.
Very nice. All right. My second question is the Second Player Score brand. Like you had mentioned, it encompasses music and anime, craft beer, books. Um, Even I've read that you guys have plans for a future TV streaming series. And you kind of mentioned that it all interconnects. Your songs are named after the books and characters in the books and so forth. So for viewers who might not be aware of that or be brand new, where do you recommend them to start so they can kind of like get brought up on the chronological events of within your brand?
Ooh, that's actually a really good question.
Yeah, I've never thought of that.
we kind of wonder that ourselves, like, where's the entry point into what we call our second player score shared universe? I think we've actually talked about that before. It's like, where do people find us? Where do they come from? We have people who came to us, through different ways. Like, a lot of people, got introduced to us through our music first, and then they realize from there that we have all these other things, and so they get into that as well. But then we also have fans that come in, enter the universe through just through the comic book, and they didn't know that we were actually a band that with music. And so yeah, I don't know, it's a good question. I think we just put all of it out there, and in whatever way people find us, that's cool. I think right now what has the most exposure, what has the most reach is like our music and my novels and the comic book series, because these are things that we can do ourselves. They're we're independent, we're an indie band, so I'm an independent author, so these are the things that we can do ourselves and put out there into the world. So I think those are the things that people can find us mostly by. We have other things within the universe that are a little bit more deeper under the surface. Like we have like screenplays for movies that are connected to, like our second album actually spawned like a trilogy of full-length movie screenplays, which are ready to be filmed, but they're not, because we can't afford to film them. So, if there's an investor out there, hey, we have screenplays. But, so those things are less likely to be found. And we still try to shop those around as well. But, those go out to more like to industry types, because you can't really put like a screenplay out there for fans to find. I mean, exactly. So the stuff that we can reach people with is what we're doing now. And so, I think people will come to us mainly through one of those three ways. I think it's mostly been the music, though, right?
Yeah,
That's
been my experience. I know I run a lot of like Facebook ads and stuff, and um, I I used to try to do ads for several different things, but it's really just now at this point, everything starts with the music. And then once people get hooked into that, then it's the other things that really draw them in even further. I've found the other items to be harder to get people interested in. And I think Brian has even explained that a few times to me, even that like the comic book is a good example is like you can listen to somebody's music and realize that you like it partway through one song. You can be like, oh, I kind of like the sound. I'd be interested in hearing more of that. But like with the comic book series, well, even just to read one comic book, you have to invest some time into that. And so it's harder to get people into that maybe as an entry point versus the music. And so I think that that's always the best place. As far as us, we started our first concept album with Nobody's Hero, and that's where all of this kind of started. But so far, I mean, I feel like Glorified really would be the best place for somebody to start that was listening to us. I think it's the best representation of our sound, and a great place to learn about who we are. And then it also has the comic book series, and it really gives you a good understanding of like who we are as a band. And then I would go to Nobody's Hero, which in itself, it's got its own backstory, which, like Brian said, turned into some screenplays, although you can't really get into those. So that's why it's maybe more a good second choice. And then that was also the one that spawned the whole beer line idea. So that's what I spent time doing was developing beers to match up with all the songs on the album, to where eventually, if we end up conning somebody, discussing with somebody how to maybe do a contract brew, like Red Hook or somebody like that would be like, oh yeah, we're in, then we would have the Nobody's Hero 12 pack kind of thing.
Cool.
So
Taste the music.
Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, I agree. Glorified's the best place to start with, because there's also Easter eggs to all the other albums and stuff. So it's like if you're like those, like my kind of nerd is like, if there's a reference to something that I don't understand, like I would literally pause WandaVision and be like, what the hell did they talk about? And then like pull it up and it's like, oh, it's this. And oh, like, I'll buy the album, I'll buy this. So like I'm that kind of a nerd. So hopefully other people pick up on that stuff too. And then once they figure out that Easter egg is related to something else, it's like the whole thing just explodes. So yeah, I think Glorified would be the best place.
And Glorified will take you back to the first album,
Mm-hmm.
to this track Gloria, which is kind of where the whole idea of Glorified ended up spawning from.
Fortress Storm Attack. Even the title of the album is directly out of the comic book.
That's awesome. And I love how you do that with everything. Like the name of your band is from a Simpsons episode, and you took that a step further. And in that same episode, it's you made a song name from the video game in that episode. Like everything goes full circle with you guys.
Yeah, we're all, like Dan said, I mean, we love the little Easter eggs, so we try to build those into our own stuff as much as we can too. Oh, and I just want to add, we also have a couple other things. We have a podcast where we talk about pop punk band, we talk about something from pop culture, and we talk about beer. And that kind of grew out of our practices, where these were conversations that we were just having just naturally, in between songs, we would talk about, like, oh, did you guys check this out, on Netflix last night or whatever. And so we, at one point we thought, well, why don't we just record these conversations and turn it into a podcast and see what happens. So
what's the name of your podcast?
It is Second Player Speaks. So it's on Anchor. And yeah, so we do like a one half an hour episode every week. So that that could be another way for people to kind of get to know us and get into us. Dan is also starting up streaming on Twitch, where he plays video games, and so
Oh, very nice.
yeah. So those are other the other ways to find out about who we are and what we do. So
That's right up Dan's alley. He's definitely our online gaming nerd.
Yeah. I just need to remember to stay sober enough not to rage quit every time.
One of your, well, actually, many of your videos are it shows you playing the video games. I think that's pretty cool. And you go from different systems. You have an Xbox, you got PlayStation there. What's your favorite system?
Currently, I would have to say Xbox, but then like I'm still waiting to get the next gen console because I'm broke as hell. So like I can't really justify bringing in like another $500 console, and I'm just like, well, I just got this streaming rig set up. Why? Just because I can get more pixels out of the screen? Like, nah, I'll just hold off on that for right now. But so far, it's been like Xbox stuff like that, and then gonna get back more into the retro stuff, but it's a lot harder. I mean, NES is hard as hell, which is why it's so much fun to watch, though.
my house is a Nintendo house, so we have the Switch.
I'm a Sony guy. We have a PlayStation 3 and 4. We got the Xbox and we have a Switch, but I find that I just go to the PlayStation for myself.
Yeah, like
you looking to getting the 5?
I want to, yeah.
I'm just a watcher. I like to watch. So we get like, I don't know, we've had most consoles in the house. I mean, we had, man, we even had a Super Nintendo. We had the 64. We had this like all at one time, and they were all being played. We had the PS2. We have a PS4. And for me, I mean, I'll play like PlayStation games. I'll play those, like the button mashers. I think my wife and I just finished Diablo 3.
Okay.
And
hack
before
and
that,
slash
it was it was Champions of Norath.
Oh, I love that game.
Because I mean, I can still I can function in those. I don't have to be precise, and I don't have to remember things like what buttons do what, all the time. I mean, I remember, I need to know what they do to a certain degree, but
hey, those dungeon crawler games, those are a lot of fun, man.
Yeah, I love them. But now my wife is really big into Animal Crossing, and we used to have it with the Wii. So this past Christmas, I got her a Switch, so she can play the new Animal Crossing, because I like to just sit and watch people play Animal Crossing. I don't really care to play it myself, but I like to watch other people play it. I think that's fun. And, like other games, I like to watch people play that stuff. But I guess for me to play myself, I would love to get like a big old console, like an old arcade console, and
that'd be cool
in the house. And
that would be awesome.
That was my gaming days. I never really got huge into the stuff at home, and I mean, I got a little bit into it with the GameCube, and when we had all the kids living at home, I was real big into like the 64 and the Wii with the Mario Party games.
Oh, I guess.
Oh, okay. God, I love those. Those were fun. But beyond that, I think I tried to get into the Amazing Spider-Man when that first came out I think for like PS2 or something. I tried to get into that, and it was just I just couldn't. It was too many buttons. It's too much stuff to do.
Gotcha.
Yeah, but if you're good with the Wii, I want to get you into VR stuff, because I think you'd be pretty good at that.
I'd love to try some VR.
I got that old HTC Vive that's still working, so like, yeah, I think you would do pretty good in that.
Yeah,
we got the PlayStation VR. It's pretty sweet. Nice. I thought maybe because like my son gets car sick, so I thought maybe he'd get motion sickness, but he actually can do that without any problems. So it's pretty sweet.
Wow, right on.
Right on.
Now, my son would be very upset if I didn't ask, because he's a big anime fan. I played him your trailer, and he loved it. He wants to know what's your favorite anime.
Ooh.
I have so many. I've watched thousands of hours. My favorite actually is one called K-On! It's about like these four high school girls who form a band, and they become their school's light music club, but they never practice, and all they do when they get together in their practice room is drink tea and eat dessert. And but I guess somehow their friendship bond is so strong that when they do get together and actually do play and perform, they sound amazing. So it's a slice of life. It's it's a lot of fun. It's just kind of light and funny, and it's and because it's about music and about a band, I think that's why it's kind of my favorite. There are a lot of others though that I could go on. Like what else do I like Food Wars actually, and Food Wars. I like Akame got Kill. I'm watching Demon Hunter right now, which I really like. It just season one just came out on Netflix. I'm enjoying that. There's just tons. I can just go on. If you get me started on anime, I've been just so. I'll let Dan have a turn.
Oh, okay. I kind of like the gory stuff. So like Gantz, love that one. I mean, there's no happy ending in that. Like, all the characters are dead by half of the series, and you're just like, what? That and well, Death Note. I mean, that the whole psychological chess game that they play. God. I mean, they can literally have just a conversation in their heads, and that'll be the whole episode, and you're like, next. It's crazy, man. Watched a lot of Dragon Ball, but after a while, I got tired of just watching them scream for the entire episode, and then they recap the next episode with last episode screaming, just powering up the whole time. I'm like, okay, just fight already, just fight. So, yeah, pretty much just the gory stuff.
I'm a big horror fan, so Death Note was easily my favorite. And the most recent one that I watched. I watched Dragon Ball with my son, and then but for me, my introduction to anime was Star Blazers, like back in the 80s.
Okay.
Yeah.
I actually don't watch anime. I haven't watched it in a very long time. The only one that I really liked that I remember was Akira, and that's like from the 80s.
Oh yeah, Akira.
That's a classic. Yeah.
So yeah, that was a question for him. But I want to get back to your music. Your music is a direct correlation, as we talked about, to your books and some of your other art. It kind of reminded me of like Coheed and Cambria, how their albums are soundtracks to their comic books. Was there any inspiration from them when seeing how they brought their music and comic together?
Not directly. Just I was aware that they're one of the bands that were doing it, and so that's kind of thing. Like we got not necessarily inspiration, but just kind of like we felt like okay, there are a few other bands who are doing something similar, so that's kind of cool. So that kind of gave us the just the reassurance, I guess, that we're that this is something that we can pull off, we can do. I know that I was aware of Coheed and Cambria doing it. I know like even like Queensryche, with their Mindcrime, Operation Mindcrime album, or even like Green Day, when they had American Idiot and they turned that into a play and everything. So so it was kind of we saw what other bands were doing. The one thing that we wanted to make sure that we did though was like when we made the original stories that are connected to the albums, that we wanted them to be just like independent stories unto themselves, where like we see sometimes you have bands who make like a comic book or whatever, but it's just about the band. I mean, and that's cool too, there's nothing wrong with that, but we didn't want to make our things about us. We wanted to make it about these other stories that were totally unrelated, and so that's where like the Coheed and the Queensryche and even like Iron Maiden influences came in. So yeah, so we definitely got some at least reassurance.
Very nice. Well, Brian, I wanted to congratulate you on. I was reading how your book, The Secret of the Song Shell, was a finalist for the 2012 USA Best Book Awards for fantasy fiction. That's really, really cool.
Thanks. Yeah, that was a nice honor. It was cool because those awards actually were open to independent and traditionally published authors and books.
Oh, nice.
Like of the in that category that year for fantasy fiction. There were like 5, finalist winners. And so like I think I was on there. I was in that 5 along with another independent author and like 3 like mainstream traditionally published books. So it was kind of cool to be selected and to be in that kind of company. But yeah,
That's
thanks.
awesome. I just wanted to bring that out because you, as we mentioned, you are an author, and you have also a 5-book series called the Joel Suzuki series. And on Thursday, you announced that you are working on the 6th volume. So a 2-part question for people that are familiar with your books. What can they expect from the 6th one? And for new fans who might not be aware, what are your books about?
Yeah, well, the Joel Suzuki series, it's a young adult science fiction fantasy series, kind of inspired by things like Harry Potter and Percy Jackson. Basically, the way it started was my son, who is on the autism spectrum. He was like years ago, he was into reading things like Percy Jackson, The Hunger Games, stuff like that. And one day he came up to me and just totally out of the blue, he asked me, "Hey, Dad, can you write me a book?" I'm like, "What?"
That's cool.
Okay. I mean, like I had dabbled in creative writing before, but I never had the inspiration or the motivation to finish an entire project. But I think with his request, now I thought, okay, well, this is something cool I can do, for him and for me, check something off my bucket list. So from there, what I decided to do was I wanted to create a series or a book series where the main character was kind of inspired by my son and a little bit of him and myself into it. And it would be where he was a musician, but he was also autistic. But the source of his magic would come from his autism, where so his autism wouldn't be an obstacle for him to be overcome. It would be like where he got his power, where he got his superpowers or his magic from. And so the character ends up he travels to this different world where um, like basically his autism it kind of makes him like like how Superman comes to Earth and he gets his power from the yellow sun. Well, my character goes to another world and his autism is what gives him the powers over there. And it's like this music based magic system where kind of like Brutal Legend, I guess, where you play a riff on this musical instrument, a stringed instrument, and it creates like a magic spell or things like that. So the series, the Joe Suzuki, who is my character, the whole series is kind of like his coming of age journey. The first book, which was A Secret of the Song Shell, was actually the first book in the series. I rebranded it, I renamed it, and put it under the Joel Suzuki brand. But
Okay.
so it's so he goes along, and like in the first book, he travels to the other world, and they have an adventure there. Each book is sort of like a one self-contained story, but together they form a longer arc. There's an overall story arc for the whole 7-book series where the stakes get higher and the tone grows darker as you go along.
So you would want to read them in order, though, correct?
Yeah. I mean, you could start in the middle, but you probably wouldn't understand really what was going on. So it's best to get the full enjoyment out of it. You want to start from the beginning, and so there's one main villain throughout the whole thing. To answer your other question about the 6th book, because the 5th book just came out last month, and so the 6th book being the second to last book in the main arc, kind of it starts to the stakes rise exponentially, and everything kind of goes kind of crazy. Like for people who are familiar with my books, the 5th one takes place almost entirely on Earth. So we kind of like while the first 4 books were taking place mostly in the other world, we kind of like dial it back a little bit, where it's it kind of like it's the calm before the storm kind of thing. I mean, there's still an adventure, there's still a thing that happens there. Basically, Joel is trying to get back to the other world, and then so when he does get back in the 6th book, that's kind of when all hell breaks loose. And it's like I bring in like multiverses and all this kind of other crap. So so that's book 6 is the buckle up. It's going to be a wild ride book, and it's going to carry over into the final one, the 7th one. So
awesome.
Am I correct that a kind of hack Pacific Northwest band made an appearance in 5?
yeah, they did. Actually, Second Player Score, the band is
those losers.
they're like we make ourselves like like how Stan Lee was to the MCU, where we make little cameo appearances. We're the connecting tissue. Like I said, we don't make the stories about ourselves, but we do show up in little cameo roles here and there. Like second player score. We're name dropped in the second book, and then we make a little appearance at the end of the fourth. But then in the fifth book, because it's based on Earth, these two guys, Dan and Kyle, actually have speaking roles. I don't show up personally.
Very cool. So back to your music. I wanted to ask you 2 questions about your song "Falling Forever," and then I'm going to play the video for the viewers. That song has a very strong vibe of Nirvana from the song "School." Was Nirvana a big influence?
Yeah, I mean we're all fans. And actually that song, funny enough, is I was ripping off a band called Burning Brides, who themselves are very influenced by Nirvana. So I was it's kind of a Nirvana via Burning.
Gotcha.
I was actually ripping them off, but just by the transitive property, I ripped off Nirvana. I didn't actually know I was ripping off the School riff until somebody pointed it out later on. I was like, oh, yeah.
That's pretty funny. My absolute favorite part of that video was Sam. He was fantastic. Is he gonna make any future appearances in any other videos?
I don't know as of yet. It's been discussed, but I don't know. I think the whole video discussion kind of like shut down with the whole COVID thing. So
yeah.
we'll have to see when things open up again.
All right. Well, it was a very funny video, and so I'm gonna play it so everyone can watch it. This is "Falling Forever."
Turn my bell down. You can't imagine. My line is severed, falling forever. And now I told her this story's over. So many pages, all torn away tonight. Drown me in the river, blinded by a shimmer. And you rendered me defenseless from the start. 'Cause you know that I'm the giver, make a sword out of a sliver. And you drove it through the center of my heart. You're full of passion, I'm out of fashion. Trade my aggression for numb repression. In time you'll come to know why they sent you. It's all you wanted in so many ways tonight. Drown me in the river, blinded by a shimmer. And you rendered me defenseless from the start. 'Cause you know that I'm the giver, make a sword out of a sliver. And you drove it through the center of my heart. Drown me in the river, blinded by a shimmer. And you rendered me defenseless from the start. 'Cause you know that I'm the giver, make a sword out of a sliver. And you drove it through the center of my heart.
And welcome back. I wanted to kind of ask a couple questions from my brother because he was in the military in 1998, and he was stationed in Schofield Barracks on Honolulu. And I know Dan and Brian, you guys are from Hawaii. Are you guys actually from Oahu?
Yep. Born and raised.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
My brother was in Schofield Barracks, and because he was a military police, and he used to patrol Waikiki Beach.
Oh yeah, that's like my backyard. Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I lived right by Diamond Head, so I was like,
Oh,
teenager
dude.
walking by, like walking up and down Waikiki at night, trying not to get robbed and stuff. It's like,
But my brother was telling me when he was over there that the actual Schofield Barracks used to have a music festival right on post. Did you guys attend that at all? Do you remember that?
I'm trying to, there was a bunch of them. Was it like the Big Melee or Poi Fest
Well,
or?
those were never on Schofield on base though. I don't know. That's
I mean, unless I misunderstood him, but I thought he said Schofield Barracks actually had one on post, and that people could go on base and attend.
Yeah. I don't.
Oh, that might have been the Kaneohe Marine Corps base. I remember they had shows on that.
Yeah, Kaneohe and the Hickam Air Force Base. We actually used to play there.
Oh, cool.
I don't know. Maybe I was just too drunk to remember.
Yeah, they all kind of blur together after a while.
That's funny.
It's always like hide your weed, hide your beer. You know, that's kind of what it always was. You know, like you don't want to get busted on base for speeding. You know.
Yeah, he had another question he wanted me to ask you guys. He told me that when he was there, the Waianae Beach, the military actually owned part of that beach, and you weren't allowed to go on unless you were military personnel. And he said, but he and his friends, he would let local people just go on the beach and surf as long as, you know, upper people weren't around to see it. Did you guys ever surf Waianae Beach at all?
That must be talking about Bellows, I think.
Oh, okay.
It must be Bellows, right?
I don't know. I'm just
Waianae side with,
I'm
like-
relaying his question.
Well, okay. I grew up in Hawaii. I was born and raised there, but oddly enough, I can barely swim. Much less.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I can't either.
So I wasn't a good fit. I mean, that's why I think I fit better here on the mainland.
So you didn't move from Hawaii. You got kicked out because you couldn't surf, right? Is that the truth?
That's my local card.
Yeah. Yeah, I was more of a bodyboard kind of guy because like it's a lot harder to fall off a board if you're laying on it. But when you wipe out on a bodyboard, man, if you ever pearled like with like the nose goes down and the back goes right into your stomach, and all of a sudden you're just like a 4-foot wave can feel like death, because you're already right there, you know.
I had read from your website that you guys had won what was basically the equivalent of the Hawaiian Grammys. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, there's a thing in Hawaii called the Hoku Awards, and they are kind of like, you know, the Hawaii's version of the Grammys. And so a band that I was in back in Hawaii prior to this band, we actually were the first ones. In Hawaii, what they call Hawaiian music, which is sort of almost like country music. It's not really traditional Hawaiian music, but you know, it's more of this you know, pop kind of sounding music, which is okay. That's the most popular genre of music there. So the awards were largely for that style, and you know, and there was some traditional Hawaiian music as well, which was cool. But they you know, started to, you know, talk about expanding the category. So one year they decided to add a rock category because there were more and more rock bands coming out. And so actually the band that I was in, we were the first ones to actually win that award the first year they had it. So
Oh, that's cool.
yeah,
Nice.
so that was pretty exciting.
One of my favorite trips ever was I spent 8 days in Oahu. I was there for a business convention. It was right on that Rainbow Hotel, right on Waikiki Beach.
Okay,
We
yeah.
actually
Nice.
stayed at a house up in Turtle Bay, up in the North Shore.
Ooh.
So we got to see like the whole all of Oahu and drove around. A beautiful place. We had a lot of fun. And one of the things that I remember was the food and how good it was. But there's one dish in particular I have to ask you about because it seems fake to me. And it almost seems like you guys created it just to screw with people on the mainland.
Okay.
The Loco Moco. Is that something that you guys actually eat, or do you just tell you know, people from the mainland, hey, you should eat this?
No, it's a legit thing. I mean, I don't know how it came to be. It just kind of seems like it's like it's just rice, a hamburger patty, gravy, and an egg. I mean, and macaroni salad. That's pretty much it. So it's kind of like, how'd you get these ingredients and slap it together?
Yeah,
and,
it
like,
was so
charge
bizarre.
$8 for it, right?
Like, how stoned do you have to be like, let's mix all of that together?
Yeah, it's like, well, normally we have like a hamburger steak, which is a loco moco without the egg. So I guess one day someone just was like, hey, put a fried egg on it, and then.
It sounds really good.
No, and jokes aside, it was delicious. But as I'm eating it, I'm like, who the hell thought to put all this together, man?
It was probably a drunken creation.
Yeah, it sounds like it was, but it sounds delicious.
I feel like weed was involved.
Yeah,
Oh, definitely.
Definitely.
We make it here every once in a while, and I feel like nostalgic. But
well, that's cool.
actually, like the more nostalgic thing is all revolves around spam.
Oh, dude, that was
yeah.
everywhere in Hawaii. You know,
Yeah, it's like its own food group.
Yeah, I'm not from Hawaii, but these guys have had their influence on me. I have about probably 24 tins of spam out in my garage.
No way. Wow.
Yeah, probably once a week I pull one in and make something. Who knows what? But I think we introduced them to spam chili. Had them over one day for practice, and made spam chili. And man, that is some fucking fantastic stuff.
I'd like to try that. That sounds good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't get the spam hate. I mean, like a hot dog
Yeah,
is the same
right?
thing in a tube. Mine's in an oval. It's the same damn thing.
Right? I love spam.
that's
That is amazing.
my favorite song from you guys is Blood Letter. Can you tell us about that song?
Ooh, yeah, that was inspired directly by a game called Doki Doki Literature Club. I don't know if you're familiar with that.
I'm not actually.
It's a psychological horror game. I think it's available on Steam, right, Dan?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a lot of reading. It's a visual novel.
The visual novel, yeah, and it's basically like it's a parody sort of like dating simulations,
Okay.
and so it seems on the surface like you're like a typical innocent dating simulation where like you're the protagonist, you're this teenage boy going to high school, and you like the girls. There are 4 girls who are in the literature club, the high school's literature club, and they invite you to join, and it's all this thing where you write letters to each other and stuff like that. And so that's kind of where the whole idea of a letter came from. And like we were such huge fans of that game that it just I had to write a song about it. So Blood Letter was originally supposed to be part of one of our future albums. Which is kind of based on a more horror type thing, but I think with the way the story for that future album kind of developed, it's turning into something different. So Blood Letter didn't fit any longer, so it just became a single that we just decided to put out because and since we didn't have new music because of the pandemic, we figured, well, we have this single lying around, let's just release it now that it's its own thing. And but yeah, it's basically directly inspired by that game.
Very nice. Well, I'm going to play the video for that so people can hear that. So here's Blood Letter.
I wrote this letter to make things better, 'cause all I want
welcome back. This is a story I couldn't wait to hear. I was talking to Kyle on Facebook, and I had mentioned in the video of Liberty's End, I noticed, Kyle, you were playing the DTX Explorer. And I used to have that drum set. And you had told me there's actually a story behind it. And you had mentioned that the band itself exists because of that drum set. So I got to know, what's the story behind the kit?
All right. So, Brian and I actually met in like 2000, the summer of 2000. And we met on some musicians board in the early days of the internet. And so we started playing in this band that eventually became Upper 80. After I think somewhere in 2004, we ended up recording the one and only EP from that project, which was titled Evicted appropriately, because right about that point in time, everybody in our practice studio got evicted because another one of the bands went a little crazy, started a little fire. And so the landlords decided they didn't want bands there anymore. And so we just kind of went our separate ways. We didn't have anywhere really to practice at the time. And so Brian went off and did some other projects. I ended up going back to school. And then in about 2010, 2011, I ended up going to a nearby town with the guy that I actually lived here with when I originally moved up to Washington, and we were in a band together. And he said, dude, you got to come over to my house and see what I got in my basement, right? So I go over there, and he's got this Roland kit. I'd never played on one before, and he's like, look, I know you like to play on real drums, but I want you to go and just play on this for a little bit and tell me what you think. So I go and I start playing. I'm like, man, this is really cool. This sounds really good. This is not what I was thinking. He goes, just keep playing. Right. And as I'm playing, he walks over to the amp and he starts turning it down. And I like the light went off immediately as he did that. And I tell my wife about it. And she's like, all right, well, this is what you're getting for Christmas. Right. So Black Friday, 2011, we were over at Guitar Center and we picked up the DT Explorer. And I think it must have been 48 hours later, I was on the phone with Brian. Dude, we can start playing again. I have volume control. And that's ended up being it. So, yeah, I think all this happened in 2010. And then Brian and I played through 2011. And then it was the early part of 2012 that we ended up meeting up with Dan.
Very nice.
So, yeah, the DT Explorer to this day is what keeps us playing, because we can play in Brian's garage without pissing off the neighbors.
I love it. So you still have that same kit?
I do. It's kind of a Frankenstein. I have parts from other types of kits holding it together. And I think I've got some Roland cymbals and stuff, but for the most part, yeah, I mean, 90% of it though is still that DT Explorer.
That's awesome. Yeah, that was my because I've always had acoustic drums, and then when my son was born, my wife was like, "Yeah, the drums got to go," and I'm like, "Well, wait, hold up, we got to find a compromise." Right?
Yeah.
So then I got the electric kit, and I was so skeptical. I did not think I was gonna like them, and I played on them. And if I remember, the DT Explorer has like 31 customization kits, so you can mix and match if you want like a piccolo snare or this and that.
Yep.
And I'm like, it blew my mind, and I haven't went back. I've had electric drums ever since.
Yeah, no, they're fun. They're fun to have, without a doubt.
That's cool. We started with the same kit. So here's the video for Liberty's End.
The road to hell is paved.
and welcome back. All right, and I wanted to go back to Kyle because, as was mentioned before, you're a home brew master, make your own beer. I like craft beer. I'm kind of a beer snob. I'm not gonna lie. My favorite are the European lagers. I love that taste. I just wanted to ask you, in your opinion, what separates a decent beer from a great beer?
That is a good question. A decent beer is, I mean, for me, like, okay, Kirkland, right? That's the okay. So New Jersey, do you guys have Costco
Yeah.
or is it just Sam's Club?
It's the Kirkland's like the Costco brand of
Okay,
stuff.
yeah, right.
Yeah.
Okay, so Kirkland just came out with this Citra Hop Session IPA.
Kirkland
Okay.
has a beer.
Kirkland has great beer.
What?
Okay,
wow.
I'm not gonna
I
say-
have never
okay,
had that.
Wow.
I'm not gonna say okay, maybe not great beer. Really good. It's really good though. It's literally it's craft beer at PBR prices. Okay.
Okay.
Oh, really?
They have it contract brewed at a legit brewery out of San Jose, California. It is the real deal. It is good.
Wow.
It is not great, but it is what they say it is, and it is a good representation of it. So, this Kirkland is a good beer because it's what you expect, right? 10 Barrel, which is a brewery out here, they started making pub beer. Pub beer is just your basic lager. It's like a PBR, but it's craft beer, and so it's just a little bit better than a PBR in my opinion, and it's good. It's what you expect. It's a nice crisp lager. A great beer, for me, is one of those beers you don't drink it every day
Okay.
because it's so astounding that you save it for that special occasion.
Okay.
You know,
I got you.
and that's and so like I'm gonna equate it to the beer line that we tried to develop for Nobody's Hero. We have a beer in there called Never Let Me Down after the song, right? It's just it's a blonde ale, and it was originally called pizza beer because that's what it was. It was just a nice. It's basically the ale equivalent of a lager,
Okay.
and it's not great. But it's always good. It's just a great one to have every day, and it's perfect with pizza. You know.
Oh,
But then on the flip
that sounds
side,
good.
okay, then there's Bone Storm. Okay, Bone Storm is exceptional, and you would never drink this every day. In fact, I have one that is, I believe, 4 years old right now, sitting out in the garage,
Oh, wow.
in the fridge. Yeah, that's one that I'm waiting on, like, for the special occasion because you can do that when your beer is 11%. You know,
Wow.
because it can vintage. It won't go bad. So I developed Bone Storm to be something exceptional. You know, it was going to be, and we even won an award with it.
Oh, right on.
But it's modeled after a Russian Imperial Stout, but I wanted it to be like rock and roll beer, and I mean, we're calling it Bone Storm. It's got to be rock and roll beer, right? So first of all, it had to be 11% because rock and roll beer goes to 11. And yeah, I just it's super dark. It's super malty. It's super roasty. It's you know, it's like it's got a smokiness like if you're out on the battlefields, which is what Bone Storm is all kind of about. You know, you're expecting fire and smoke, and so it's got that whole flavor to it, and but it's really super smooth. Like, be really careful with this because no matter how bitter it may be or how roasty or smoky it may taste, it goes down really smooth, probably a little too smooth for 11%. You
Well,
know?
11% is super strong for a beer.
Sneaks up on you later then too.
But it is
Oh,
it
yeah.
is above and beyond, and I think that's really, for me, that's a great beer. It's something that you really want to have, but it's so good that you just don't want to have it in your fridge to have every day. I mean, it's for a special occasion.
Gotcha.
You
Now-
have some really good sounding really good sounding tasting beers too, like the maple bacon, chicken, and waffles. Do you have like any plans of making it available, like to distribute?
Um, I mean, yeah, I mean that's always in the plan. We've always been trying to kind of figure out how we might be able to do that. The discussion we've had most recently was our favorite, I think, collectively out of the whole array of beers is named after the song "Hooked," and it's a maple pecan porter. And I make it every year for the holidays.
Oh
And
wow.
we have thought like there's a brewery here, Lewitt Brewery, and Brian actually worked with one of the guys, or I think the two guys that run it. He used to work with them, and they're complete nerds too. And if you ever go in to their restaurant at the brewery and stuff, I mean, it's all nerded out and stuff.
That's cool.
And we thought it would be like a perfect match, maybe to do some sort of like a promotional beer with these guys and see if maybe they would run that recipe. So we've kind of discussed it. I don't, maybe after the pandemic lifts and whatnot, we'll go over and discuss it with the guys at Lewitt. We did have the opportunity a couple year, 3 years ago, I think. There's an operation in Oregon and Washington called McMinimans, and they go by like these old buildings all around the area, and then they convert them into hotels, restaurants, bars, breweries, the whole deal. And the one thing about McMinimans is they only sell their beer. It's part of an agreement that they have with Widmer Brothers out here. And so they only sell their beer. And they were doing this thing called the Blasphemous Collaboration Series, where every 3 months they would pick a band in the area and they would collaborate on a beer that sounded, that would represent the band or maybe a song that the band did. Well, when I heard about that, I immediately emailed the head brewer and was like, dude, I'm already developing a beer or beers for our album, and I think we should be part of this, right? Well, they got back to me like in a half an hour, and so they actually produced the head of Sin Beer from the album and distributed it to I think 3 of their locations for about 6 months.
Oh, dude, that's awesome.
So we already have a proven record of being able to successfully have this like contract brewed out. So, hopefully maybe we'd be able to get something going on with Lewitt, because I think the world does need to have some Hooked, man. That maple pecan porter is ridiculous.
Well, you
I'd
guys
love to
live
try it.
in a very awesome area where craft beer is a very popular thing. And now I live in New Jersey where craft beer is very popular, but I actually spent many years in the South, and craft beer is not very popular there. And when people drink beer, it's like Budweiser or Coors and stuff like that. I'm like, this is disgusting.
Yeah.
So yes, I would love it to see if you guys got some distribution and start getting some actual beer out to people.
Oh yeah, it'd be fun, man. That would be excellent. And I think I'm only 2 or 3 recipes shy of having a full 12 beers for the album.
Oh, dude, that's awesome. I wanted to ask about your album coming out 4D. And I had read that the entire album is going to be made with just using 4 chords. And that sounds incredibly hard. How is that going? Are you still committed to the 4 chords?
Yeah, at first it was, how hard could it be? But then when you start doing it, you find out how challenging it actually really is. Especially like to make songs that are, that are interesting. Because if you're just gonna do 4 chords, I mean, there are a lot of good 4-chord songs, but I think.
Well, a song and an album is a big difference, though.
Yeah. So I guess what we did was we decided to make. What we did was the album is divided up into the 4 suites that I mentioned before, the 4 seasonal suites. What we did was we took like the key signature for each season is a key signature for those songs. So like for the winter suite, for example. the main key signature is D, because D stands for the chemical element of water for winter. And anyway, so we have a song in D major, a song in D minor, and then the relative major and minor. So it's very, very nerdy. I mean, this is
Well,
this is what we
to
do.
me that's awesome. I missed the D part. I was just focused on the 4, so it's even more in depth than the number 4. It's also the letter D. That's really cool.
Yeah. So yeah. Anyway, so we based it on off of those. So we made it, the 4 chords within that key signature, and it actually turned out pretty well. We were surprised. I think the challenge was how to make these 4 chord songs, but still make them interesting and not boring. And but so I think that was a challenge. But I think we just we put our heads together and we came up with stuff that we liked, that we enjoyed, that we want to listen to. And so I think hopefully the results, hopefully people will enjoy them as well. But yeah, that was an interesting challenge that we took on. So
Yeah, we trying to figure out how many ways can we interject 4 into this album.
oh yeah.
Yeah. You really have to pay attention to a lot. Like, since the chords are already picked, now you're looking at things like accents, dynamics. You spend more time listening to what the other guys are doing and trying to figure out what you can do to better serve the song and help bring showcase like what Kyle's doing, showcase what Brian's doing, and also sing 3-part harmonies on top of that whole thing. So it's like a constant juggling act, being like, okay, what am I doing? Am I overstepping? Am I not? Because there's a lot of things that I would normally add, like chord progressions and stuff like that. It's like, can't do that. So what are you gonna do? They're like, okay, so Kyle's like playing this beat here, he's playing this fill, I'll accent this and hit Brian's downbeat here, and then hopefully I'll have enough breath left to sing the rest of the chorus. So like, I'm like running all these checks in the back of my head. I'm like, wait, this is supposed to be easy. It's a 4-chord song. Like, nope. No, it's not.
That sounds very hard, and that's kudos for trying something like that. That's awesome. The last thing I like to do for people is just open it up for you guys. Now, in researching your band and going through some of the things that you do outside of music, I found a lot of really awesome, commendable things. I read that a portion of the sales of your CDs and comics went to an Oregon suicide prevention agency. And also, Brian, that you serve on the Autism Empowerment Board. A lot of really, really cool things. And I'm sure your fans are just as passionate. So I just wanted to open up the floor to you guys and say, is there anything you'd like to say to your fans?
Well, thanks for your support. We really appreciate it. I hope you guys get as much enjoyment out of what we do as we do. And yeah, like you mentioned, we definitely like to give back. We're all about, we want to be a source of for inspiration for other creators, and as well as being giving back to the community. So like you mentioned, I'm on the board of directors of a nonprofit organization here in Vancouver called Autism Empowerment, where we provide services to the autism community. And I also donate $1 for every sale of my Joe Suzuki books to the organization. And we did that thing. We did the fundraiser for the for the suicide prevention with the release of our 3rd album. And so yeah, we just want to give back. We want to try to help. Our whole thing is we want to try to help make the world, not to sound overly cheesy, but we want to help try to make the world a more positive place through pop culture.
I think that's awesome.
And yeah, that's kind of our mission. So for everybody, for all of our fans, everybody who likes what we do and supports us, thank you very much. We really appreciate it.
Well, that's all the questions I had for you guys. I really appreciate you guys coming on. And for those of you who are viewing, thank you so much for viewing. Please like and subscribe. And guys, thank you so much.
Thank you guys.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Appreciate you having us on.
All right, thanks, guys.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
Thanks,
Thank you.
guys.